So I figured I'd start with a bold statement, and this was the boldest one I could make in the 5 minutes I spent on the presentation. I have this idea that at least, or I would actually guess that the majority or pretty much everyone in here knows someone who has had someone at least in their Facebook friend group, let's say, who's done a booking on Easypractice or through Easypractice. Easypractice is an online management platform for clinics and private practices, and we have around 7% of the Danish population registered with patient journals and all this stuff because they book their therapists through our platform. It's a subscription-based service, so we are very focused on data, and that's something I really like because I like sitting in a dark corner somewhere in the office with my coffee mug and with my spreadsheet. So today what I'm going to go through is how we develop our product and how we make the data point the right direction. And when I talk about data, I obviously talk about the profitability, and the profitability comes from, in this case, the lifetime value of the customer. So that's what we're going to dive into. The approach I'm going to take, or that I'm going to explain today, is something we call the turtle approach. And in this case, it's the turtle as an opposite to the hare. I'm sure you all know the story of the turtle or the tortoise and the hare. The reason why I've called it so is because we're I would say somewhat boutique software as a service company. We've funded ourselves, so we haven't taken any outside capital. And the reason for this is we have some pretty strong values we believe very thoroughly in. Let's just start by talking about that. What this really means is we believe, as the turtles we are, that we are in it for the long run. We don't have to make any really fast decisions. It's not important to me that we make really fast money right now or that we close big deals. I would much rather take or leave a really good deal at the table if it would somehow divert my attention and instead focus on how can I get the best and most successful company going forward. And this is something we talk about a lot, and it's something I'll dive into in this presentation as well. I've marked 3 sort of key areas here that we talk about when we make decisions in our product development. The first thing is long-term goals above short-term profits. The second one is forecastable growth or forecastability, which I think is extremely important. The third one is our core life and business values. And being in a company where we are 2 founders who run the company together, we have this opportunity to actually design the company so that it suits our life goals and what we want to achieve in our day work. So we decided to make the company in a way where everyone who works for us in Easypractice, they can work wherever they want. So we have people in Colombia, we have people in Nigeria, and some of the people I don't even know where they are. We don't really care. People can be wherever they want as long as they fulfill the goals we have. I myself work the same way, and my co-founder in the company works the same way. We rarely meet. We discuss everything online. And these are some of the foundation values of the company. This means we have to take some certain choices when we decide what to do going forward. And it means that there's a lot of times we say no to very interesting possibilities simply because we would rather have a great life today and tomorrow instead of risking it all for some big payout. We're in it for the long run. A few numbers. We're not really a hare or a rocket, but this is our growth since 2014. We are nearing the 20,000 clinic on the system, so we have a lot of clinics, and in Denmark, as you can tell, if you do the math, 7% of the population is a lot of people. It's not quite a hockey stick, but we're getting there. I like to call it the slow but certain climb to the top. This is what I really believe in, and once you've been at it for a few years, it actually becomes pretty profitable and fun as well. It just takes some time. This is our customer lifetime value. Morten said that we've doubled it. Obviously, there's a few different ways you can calculate this, but the way we've calculated it on the graph that I've brought today, we've actually tripled our customer lifetime value. This in turn means that we have way more money to invest in our product, which is what we do. So how do we do it? We've made a certain product development roadmap. And I would say, listening to the presentation from Pecan, it somewhat resembles what they do, if I understood everything correctly. The way we do it is we've made this sort of framework we follow, where we start by figuring out what's the most important problem we can solve. So when we founded the company in 2014-ish, we sat down and decided, let's see if we can digitalize this physical calendar that people run around with. I'm sure you've seen it or used it 20 years ago or 10 years ago. A lot of people still have physical calendars where they use an actual pen and write down whatever appointments they had. So this is the first problem we set out to solve. And because we believe very firmly in targeting specific niche areas, we decided to do it for psychotherapists. So the first version of the platform was actually called psychotherapistbooking.dk. It was very specific, but what we wanted to achieve was a somewhat reachable and simple MVP of a product where we would solve a problem and actually bring value to someone. And this is actually the approach we take every day when we decide on feature development. The first thing we do is to figure out what's the problem we want to solve. And obviously the first time it was digitalizing this physical calendar. Then we have a baseline for the stickiness. As soon as we have some customers, we know how sticky is our product. When do they leave the product? This means we have our baseline for the lifetime value of the customers. And it means we have some cash we can spend on product development which in turn solves more problems. After this, the whole cycle starts again, obviously. So this is the beauty, I would say, of product development in a very simple turtle-like approach, where we don't try to run fast, but we try to understand what are the core problems we can solve for the customers and how can we solve them extremely well. So we started out with a really simple calendar that was digitalized. Eventually we moved on. We figured we could solve a few more problems. We also had the learning that if we solve too many problems, we will clutter the platform, as was also mentioned in the presentation before mine. So what we decided to do was we said we would really like to be able to expand the value that we provide to our customers while expanding the amount of money that we can get for the customers, the lifetime value. But we would also like to make sure that we don't actually increase the complexity of the product. And what we did was we made an app store. So today the product is primarily a calendar system where you log in. The first thing you see is your calendar. That's the most primary and important problem for the therapists and the clinics to solve. But they now have an app store where they can install a bunch of apps that solve various different problems. This is the framework we've always used when deciding these different problems we want to solve. Obviously, you need to start with a problem, but you can also solve some problem better once you have started the cycle. And this is by no means a quick fix. It takes a long time to do. And how do we figure out which problems to solve? What we do exactly is we have a lot of correspondence with our customers. Having close to, let's just say for the sake of easy numbers, 15,000 clinics, we get a bunch of emails every day. We get contacts through Facebook, and we get contacts through replies to our automated email journeys and our Net Promoter Score emails. And we assemble all this and try to put it into our system, where we sort of discuss and decide on what to work on, which problems to solve going forward. I've put in a few screenshots, but that's just to make the presentation look better. The process is basically collect input, evaluate it, and in the evaluation, that's where all the magic happens. Figure out, does this actually solve a problem? Do we want to just build a really fast horse, or do we want to make the car? And that's what we discuss here in step number 2. And then once we figured out what to build, we ship an MVP, which sometimes is really fastly written code, but it solves the problem. And then we start learning based on the MVP we shipped. Often we ship the MVP product as an app in the App Store. Sometimes we expand our core offering, but we try to not expand the core product in a way that it adds functionality. We only expand the core product when it enhances existing functionality. So all added functionality is always through apps. After we've installed it, we check the usage. Our approach to often actually both bug finding and making sure our products actually work is not testing very thoroughly, but shipping it and then just letting the users give us feedback. So because we have a bunch of users, it's pretty fast. We often ship some feature as an app, don't tell anyone about it. And some clinics, let's say 50 clinics, will discover by chance the app in the App Store, install it, and we will start getting feedback. We have rather, I would say, sophisticated error handling. So every day our product team will be able to see what bugs have we had in the platform, where did we see any errors, and then they start fixing it. We start getting feedback from the very loyal community we have. They start asking questions about how is this shitty app not working, and why can't I log in with two-factor or whatever product it is we've developed, and then we start changing it based on the feedback we get. And then we jump to the product development loop again. So basically the process is learn something from the customers, ship it, learn something from the customers again, ship something new, learn, and so on. And here we have it. A few examples, just for example's sake. We get comments every day on our Facebook page, so if you want to see examples of how we handle it, you can go to facebook.com/Easypractice, and you'll see customers writing stuff like, I've hired an extra therapist in my clinic, please help, can you do something about it? Or for instance, it takes too long for me to file all the paperwork to my insurance company. Or the third example I have here is therapists that have contacted us saying, we would really like if you could somehow automate the process of bookkeeping so that we don't have to log into Dinero or Economic or C5 or whatever bookkeeping platform you use, and simply automate it. And these three are obviously real-life examples that resulted in an app that we actually delivered in the App Store. The really important parts of the apps that we actually have delivered here is they all solve typically one specific problem. So we try not to make app bundles or a lot of problems that are solved in one app. We try to keep it as simple as possible. So we solve one problem, and then later on we might solve the problem better. But what we try to do is we solve the one problem which will increase the perceived value for our customer. And once the perceived value for the customer of using our platform increases, the amount of money we can charge for the product will be able to increase as well. We try to always have somewhat of a, which is hard, a one-to-one relationship between the perceived value of the system that our customer buys and the amount of money that we charge for it. And this is obviously a really tough discipline, but if they get too much value for free, then we're leaving money on the table. And if we charge too much for our system, then our customers will leave. So we try to find this magic fit between this. And then a really important point for us, the app approach does not destroy our core product, which is extremely important. When we acquire new customers, what we typically do is we get the customer hooked on a small functionality or a small problem they want to solve. A lot of them, they just want to have some way of organizing, managing their sessions, their calendar. And some of them want to have a simple journaling platform. As soon as they've got this, we want to expand the value we get from them. So that's why we get them to install all of these other apps. And eventually we turn into their private practice management platform for everything. The key points: don't ruin your product by feature overload. I think this was also mentioned before. Solve problems first. I think that's really important. Always understand, and this goes for product development to marketing. Everyone in the company, as I see it, should understand what are the problems that we actually solve for the customer. Why do we do this? And third, slow and steady wins the race. That's it. Thank you.